We all know that Minecraft Steve is insanely strong, capable of carrying millions, if not billions, of pounds among other insane feats. However, one of the craziest things he does happens not in the late game with shulker boxes or nether stars, but in the first few seconds. Steve's punches are inhuman, and although I'll never reach his levels of strength, I'd still love to know how hard I'd have to work to match his output. In this video, I'll be doing my best to find the toughest Minecraft block that I could break by hand. By battling our way up a tier list of progressively tougher blocks, we'll find how far I could get before reaching my limit. Rather than starting with just any random block though, I wanted to look at the one that almost every player breaks first, oak logs. After that, we'll continue to scale up until I can't go on anymore. To start things out, we need to see how difficult it is for Steve to break a log in game. So, let's do some math. Or at least, let's start with someone else's math, and then go from there. 6 years ago, the Theorizer released a video on the strength of Steve's punches, finding that his output greatly varied depending on the ultimate tensile strength, or the maximum stress that a material can withstand before breaking, of each block. While he calculated the force behind Steve's punches for a few blocks, such as granite, obsidian, and diamond, oak wood wasn't covered. That's where I come in though. Using his formula, we can find it for ourselves. I should note that he said it wouldn't be perfectly exact, but it was the best formula that I could find, and we are still talking about some ridiculous hypotheticals here to begin with. The formula requires you to multiply the ultimate tensile strength of the given block by the area of Steve's fist, then divide that by the punching rate per second times the break time of the block. I know that that's a lot, but just bear with me. Steve's fist area and punching rate were provided as 0.0534 meters squared and 4.87 seconds respectively, but it'll be up to us to find the ultimate tensile strengths and break times. When looking at the tensile strength of wood, one major factor comes from whether we're hitting it parallel or perpendicular to the wood grain. Thankfully for us, we're punching perpendicular, which makes the tensile strength 3 million pascals rather than the 90 million it would have been. After getting all of that googling out of the way, I can just play the game now to find the other number. Walking up to a tree and breaking the log, I found that it took 2.93 seconds total. Plugging all of those numbers into our equation, Steve is punching with a force of 11,227 newtons, or 2,524 pounds of force. For a fun reference, that's about the same power as a bullet from a machine gun. Since he punched the block roughly 14 times in total, that's about 35,336 total pounds of force exerted to break the log. Let's go ahead and see what that'd look like for me to do. The average male exerts about 180 pounds of force per punch, and I'd assume that's relatively accurate for me. Since I don't have the current resources to double check that, we'll just have to say it's good enough. Taking the 35,336 pounds of force, dividing it by 180, it'd take roughly 196 punches for me to exert the same amount of force and break an oak log. I'll be honest, that's definitely a lot less than I was expected to see, but it's still no easy feat to accomplish consecutively. By Minecraft logic, we need to keep hitting non-stop or else the block's breaking progress is completely lost. Let's go ahead and see just how fast I can do this. I know that Steve only chooses to throw crosses with his dominant arm, but we're going to consider that a personal preference. I'll be going at this with both of these guys as hard as I can. Let's start the timer in 3, 2, 1. This was exhausting to say the least. For the integrity of the challenge, I did my best to maintain heavy, complete punches throughout the entire process. Due to that though, I could feel my steam running out, especially around the 30-second mark. Knowing that I was already over halfway done though, I was able to mentally push through and just keep going. I'll be the first to admit that my final punches were a bit weaker, but we managed to successfully finish with a time of 47.3 seconds. Only 44 seconds longer than it takes Steve? Not too bad. Despite my wheezing, I was happy because a win is a win. 198 punches, taken care of. Next up, let's look at stage 2, which is granite. I figured that after wood, stone is the next step in our natural progression, and granite is one of the easiest rocks to find information on. Even still, it wasn't exact. Most places said that the ultimate tensile strength ranged from 3 million to 9.5 million pascals, so we're going to average that at 6,250,000. Finding the time to break the blocking game as well, which was 7.56 seconds, we can find that Steve exerts 9,065 newtons, or 2,037 pounds of force per punch, when breaking granite. You may have noticed, but that's actually less force than he used for each punch on the wood. While the tensile strength of granite is significantly higher, the increased break time evened out the equation more or less. That being said, this'll still be a lot more punches. Multiplying the break time of 7.56 seconds by his 4.87 punches per second, Steve hit the block around 22 times before it broke. If each punch was delivering 2,037 pounds of force, then he exerted 44,814 total pounds of force on the granite. For me, that means I'd have to punch about 250 times. I took about 30 minutes to cool down and chill after the last challenge before attempting this one. While I was definitely still tired, I figured that it was ultimately probably beneficial to have warmed up my arms and cardiovascular system. Let's get this started in 3, 2, 1. Right from the start, I decided to pace myself better this time, and I made sure to track my breathing to ensure that I wouldn't overload myself. That being said, it was still obviously exhausting. Pushing through the soreness and fatigue, I kept going as fast and hard as I could. I wasn't going to fail on this challenge. We've done so many difficult competitions on this channel that ended in defeat, and I didn't want this to be the same story. Forcing myself to keep going, we managed to finish with a time of 1 minute and 7 seconds. Steve may be ahead of me by a minute, but I'm right on his tail and I'm not giving up. That means it's time for us to go to stage 3, which is Diorite. Although we just did Granite, which is another stone, Minecraft has a lot to offer in terms of rocks, and the jump to metal is a bit more nuts. Anyways, the best number I could find for the ultimate tensile strength of Diorite was 15 million pascals, and the break time came out the exact same as 7.56 seconds from the Granite. Plugging all of that in the exact same way we have the last 2 times, we can find that Steve is exerting 21,756 newtons, or 4,890 pounds of force per punch. Since he's hitting 22 times as well here, that is 107,580 pounds of force being exerted, equivalent to roughly 598 of my punches. 250 to 600 is a pretty insane jump, but I'm up for the challenge. At least I'll be up for it tomorrow. I'm exhausted from these first 2 today, so I've got to get some rest before we go into this. After a bit of warm up the next morning, I went ahead and got to punching. From the very start though, I could definitely still feel the looming exhaustion of the prior day. After only 40 to 50 punches, my pace was beginning to slow, and I had to change sides to keep going. However, this repositioning only helped me for so long, and it became evident that I couldn't maintain this pace for much longer. Had I waited a few days, I probably could have gone longer, but even then, 600 is likely way beyond my current reach. My energy continued to dwindle, and I had to quit around the 200 mark. I severely underestimated how much energy I forced myself to exert yesterday to complete those first 2 challenges, so it seems that on a good day, roughly 250 punches is my limit, meaning that I still managed to conquer the Granite level. Also, I couldn't be too upset because right before coming to the gym, I stopped by Walmart to pick up my Switch too, so I was just in a good mood all around. For those of you who are curious about the final tier that we failed to reach, I decided to pick gold since it's typically regarded as one of the softest metals. Looking up its ultimate tensile strength, we got a whopping 120 million pascals. However, that was slightly negated by the break time of the block, which I found to be 14.93 seconds, and plugging that all into our formula, we got an output of 88,132 newtons, or 19,812 pounds of force per punch. Since Steve punched roughly 43 times to break the gold, he exerted a total of 851,916 pounds of force. That is insane. It's about the same amount of force exerted by rocket boosters. And for me, I'd have to punch 4,732 times at full force each and every punch to match it. Given our current track record, that seems unlikely. Anyways, thank you all for checking out the video. I started getting into boxing super recently, which is what inspired me to make it, but I'm sure some of you out there could make it way farther than I did. So here's my open challenge. If you can manage to beat the Diorite tier and want to aim for gold, go ahead and let me know how it goes. If you record your attempt and post it on Instagram, tag me at @AaronEquations and I'll be sure to repost it on my story. Thanks for checking out the video though, and I'll talk to you all next time. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to see more content just like this. I do my best to post a lot of fun Minecraft as well as other video game content that ties in real world challenges. See y'all next time.